I picked this topic a long time ago, and then last week or the week before, I was like, okay, what am I really going to talk about? Because I completely had forgotten what the title was. But this really is what I want to talk about. So I was listening to the radio the other day, and I heard a commercial for Whole Foods. And it says, Whole Foods Market, we believe in real food. So I thought that was fascinating. So I thought, I'm going to go to Whole Foods and I'm going to see what's there. And what I want to tell you is that this is not about picking on Whole Foods, because I can pick on a lot of different people. But I just found that fascinating because that was the topic and I had never heard them say that before. So I went to Whole Foods and I took a look around and I saw what was there. And one of the things that I've really been lucky to do over the past 27 years at Santa Rosa Junior College, where I teach, is to give a lot of students a lot of input on what I think about the world and the world of food. And it's fascinating because I have seen so much change in the world of food. When I first started, people didn't really talk about food. And right now, I'm selling my house, so I've done a ton of cleaning, and I have come across so many magazines about food, from Sierra to Audubon to, I mean, every magazine has a food issue, it seems. Yes Magazine, you name it. So food is kind of a hot topic, and I am thrilled. So my talk today is really not to teach you anything new, because you probably know what I'm already going to be speaking about, but to really get you to come on board and teach other people the importance of eating real food and why it really, really matters. Not just matters, why it really matters. So I found this interesting, so I go into Whole Foods and I'm like, okay, what am I going to find there? So these are called Eat Your Vegetables chips. They're gluten-free, which is wonderful for people who need to eat gluten-free. But what the whole thing is people who are eating gluten-free, and I have to tell you, I eat gluten-free, they don't need these chips. These are Eat Your Vegetables jalapeno ranch chips. Okay, great, we have another product in the world. But do people really need this? Don't know. So the whole thing about eating real food that I really is the crux of the matter is, why aren't more people eating what I would consider real food? And I'm going to get to the definition of real food later on. But I think there's a couple things. People think they don't have enough time to eat what we consider real food. So the fascinating thing is, if you go to the store to go buy these products that are already made, it still takes you time. It's not like there's no time involved. You've got to go, you've got to get a list, you've got to pick them out, you've got to go stand in line to pay for them. And we are so lucky here. I've been to Whole Foods in New York City and Washington, D.C. People stand in line to check out of Whole Foods. Did you know this? It's pretty amazing. I mean, lines of like 20 people waiting to check out. So that's like a big, downer. But the thing that's so fascinating, if you live in New York City, there's so many people there who hardly ever cook, because every other storefront is a food establishment. So some people say, well, I don't cook because I don't need to. And that is an interesting comment. You don't need to, because people are preparing your food for you. And one of the interesting facts, because I'm a dietitian, the nutrition facts get in there, is that 77% of the sodium that you get in your food doesn't come from you adding it to your food. It comes from food that's prepared and processed. It's either prepared out of your house, or it is prepared in a restaurant, or processed food that you buy at the store. That's a huge percentage. So if you have a little salt shaker, and I actually have a salt grinder because I prefer it, if you have one of those and you add a little salt to your food and it's just plain food, you are going to get so much less salt than if you buy food already prepared. I had to say, in this moving process, which really is not a lot of fun, one night it was late. It was really late. It's like, what are we going to eat? And I had this little packet of refried beans. And I was like, okay, I can make tacos. So I opened the beans and I put them on tortillas and made some salad, which might have taken me all of 10 minutes. So time is not really an issue. People say it is. But the thing that was so interesting was the next morning I got up, my rings were stuck on my fingers. And then I looked at the package and there was so much sodium in those beans. Now, how many people don't use salt? Some. And how many people find that if they eat foods in packages or food from a restaurant that it's way too much salt? Yeah, most of you. So it's interesting because one of the things I teach in culinary school, and one of the things we teach them is salt, 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 salt. But the reality is, sometimes at the end of a dish, all you taste is salt. You don't taste the actual food, you just taste salt. So that's one of the things is time. The other thing is, where does your food come from? One day I went to Trader Joe's, and I do shop at Trader Joe's. There's a few things that I buy there. And they were out of frozen brown rice. It was like a crisis. So I was like, you know, you could just put up a sign that says, we sell brown rice 2 aisles over. It has the package directions on it. And I thought, and the guy looked at me and he says, oh no, people want to buy it frozen. I said, well, you know what you could do? You could tell them they can cook it and they can freeze it. And he was like, oh. So, and people, do you know you can do that? Probably you do, but that's what I do. I make rice and then I freeze it. And it's interesting, I just want to insert a little bit about my husband, because if I speak and I don't talk about him, I feel like he's not with me. I gave him a choice the other night. Did he want brown rice, red rice, or black rice? And he said black rice. Now, the interesting nutrition fact is the darker the fruit or vegetable, the more nutrition it has. So I was so happy that he chose black rice. This is a guy who really only ate white rice his whole life. So this is a giant step. So I take the rice and I stick it in the freezer, and then when I want it, I have it. So it's just a concept and something that you can look at. So how do you choose your food? You know, what's the basis for choosing your food? Some people it's based on availability, some people it's based on money, some people it's based on what they like or what they don't like or what they think they don't like, because a lot of people think they don't like certain things that they end up really liking, like my husband and the black rice. So, you know, where are you buying it? You know, are you buying it at Whole Foods? Are you buying it at Oliver's? Are you buying it at Community Market? You know, where are you shopping? Are you buying it at Costco? Because here we have a Costco with a huge organic selection, whereas in a lot of other places they don't. And I have to tell you, I am not against stores. And I'm very much in favor of stores that realize they have an audience they can cater to. And I can tell you, they don't have all those organic products at Costco because they just feel like it. They know people are going to come and buy them. And I think it's great that we have those options. And some people, I've met people who live in, you know, far off places, and the place they can shop is Walmart. I have heard, because I haven't been there, but I have heard that Walmart has organic food too. So there are options in many, many places to get the food that you want to get. So looking at that. The reason I have how do you cook it and cook it is in red, I think this is the crux of the matter, is most people, or many people, through a wide range of people, don't cook. And it's become almost an epidemic of people not cooking. Now, it tends to be people of all ages, but generally, I would say people from the ages of 18 to 35 are the least cooking population there is. And it's interesting, and that's why these food services, like Blue Apron and Purple Carrot and whatever they're called, that's why they're proliferating. And I had a fascinating experience at the AT&T store when I went to go get my phone looked at with this young man who told me that he and his fiance get Blue Apron or one of those things. And he said he really liked it. And I was like, well, why do you like it? And he said, well, it just comes and you can read the package and it tells you how to cook it. And he says, and my girlfriend, fiance, doesn't know how to cook. So this has really helped her. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then he said to me, well, you know, it's less expensive than eating out. It only costs $10 a person for a meal. And I thought, $10 a person for a meal? I mean, I'm feeding a village for $10. This is kind of crazy. But in his mind, it was like the easiest thing to do that. Now, I have to say the interesting part was it wasn't moving him further into cooking. It was moving him further into opening the box. And I know this for a fact because my nephew and his wife did the same thing. And my sister went to visit, and she's a cooker too. She went to go visit, and she said it was amazing how many parts of the recipes they had left over, and they didn't know what to do with it. So they had the food, but they didn't know how to turn it into a meal. So the box was helping them get food on the table, but it wasn't really helping them learn how to cook. And I think that is the big, big thing. However, we have YouTube, we have Pinterest, we have Instagram, we have every kind of social media there is, and you would think with all that social media that you would be able to learn how to cook. Except it's really hard to get people to do that because people want, I just had a new video shot and it's 1 minute, okay? 3 recipes. You're not gonna learn how to cook from watching that video. Now, if you can read, which most people can here, you could read the recipe and you could follow it and you could see what the steps were. And I think that's the important thing is you can learn. Many people say to me, oh, I have all those pins on Pinterest, but then I don't decide what I want to cook. I'm like, okay, well, then it doesn't help you to pin things, whatever that means. I have a Pinterest account. I do have a YouTube account. If you want to see my videos, you can go to YouTube/TheVQ. And it's the VQ because the Veggie Queen couldn't remember her password, and YouTube wouldn't let me in, so I had to do something to access it, so I changed it to the VQ, which is almost funny, right? And then the other thing is many people don't cook, they eat out, and even fast food, the interesting thing here in Sonoma County, we've had fast food restaurants go out of business. This is a very positive sign. So if you're not eating fast food and you're eating in a restaurant, you're still not in charge of your food. Because how many people eat at a restaurant where you know the food is purchased the way you would purchase it if you cared about sustainability and it being organic and being sustainably grown? You don't always know that. And some restaurants really do that and many do not. So we're paying a premium for someone else to handle our food. So I'm really big on cooking, only having taught it for many, many years, 30 years. And I think that is one of the big issues. But what makes it real?